you were in a relationship for a period of time and have 2 children.
She took the kids out of the state without my knowledge.
Does your daughter enjoy a relationship with her father?
No.
Why don't you wait outside?
This is Judy Justice. Seasson is suing her ex-boyfriend, Curtis Vasquez, for the cost of a car and childcare.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Kevin approaches Judge Judy at the bench.
Hello, Judge. Case 2195, Sherrod versus Vasquez.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judy turns to Desiree.
Ms. Surratt, you and Mr. Vasquez were in a relationship for a period of time and have 2 children.
Correct.
Together. How old are the children?
I have a daughter that's 15 and a son that's 8.
How long did you and Mr. Vasquez live together, if you did live together?
It was a lot of off and on, so I would say maybe a combined time of 8 years.
And does your daughter enjoy a relationship with her father?
Unfortunately, no.
Is that correct?
As far as I knew, that she had a great relationship with me.
When was the last time you saw your daughter, sir?
We spoke just a couple of days ago. You know, she has more time with friends now, but I did speak with her on a frequent basis.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Why don't you wait outside? Okay? Because, Ms. Surratt, I don't believe in, unless it's absolutely necessary, and certainly in this situation, it doesn't sound to me as if it's absolutely necessary to have your teenage daughter as a witness over a couple of $1,000s, which you may or may not be entitled to. Certainly, her father is in touch with her. She said he's in touch with her, which means that they communicate and that they have a relationship. Because I read the complaint and I read the answer, and I have a few basic questions. You're suing Mr. Vasquez, who you haven't lived with in many, many years, but who you share, according to what I've read here, joint legal and physical custody. Is that correct?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that pursuant to a court order?
Yes.
And when was that court order made?
I have a copy of it, so I can tell you.
2011, Your Honor. 2011.
Was there a trial, Mr. Vasquez?
There was a trial, Your Honor, yeah.
Were you represented by counsel?
I represented myself.
And what about the plaintiff? Did she have a lawyer?
She did, Your Honor.
I'd like to see a copy of that order.
It was from 2017.
Well, there was one in 2011.
This is the original one. It hasn't changed since then. We have parenting and legal custody, and a child support order, which is separate.
Judy reviews a document.
I'll say the 2016 order, the ex parte order, originally granted Mr. Vasquez custody of the children. Yes, you were the respondent in that case. It said on October 28, 2016, petitioner, that is Mr. Vasquez, filed a motion to establish custody and parenting time. The petitioner, that is Mr. Vasquez, seeks joint legal and physical custody. The petitioner also sought an order granting sole legal custody of the children based upon the allegations that his daughter was watching his son without supervision for extended periods of time and that his daughter was not attending school. Child Protective Services did an investigation and actually found that you were not sending your daughter to school.
Correct.
And she was staying home and she was babysitting. Okay. Would you tell me, without my having to go through this whole thing, was there a child support order entered?
Yes.
Ultimately, and ultimately the children remained with you?
Correct.
The final order. And what was the child support order?
The child support order initially was $93 a month. I think I have a copy of it. And then to increase based off cost of living adjustments every year.
Is that $93 a month for both children?
For both children.
Okay.
Yes.
The order was ultimately increased. How much do you pay in child support now, sir?
$230 a month, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, that's not the order.
Well, I asked how much you pay. Were you ever in arrears of payment?
I was at one point, and then I caught up, so I've been caught
Well,
up.
they're catching up, so that $230 may be partly arrears. What is the order?
Oh, I'm completely caught up with my child support.
So the current order that you're paying is $230 a month?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. This is what you're suing for. It is your claim that Mr. Vasquez agreed to pay half of certain sporting fees that the children had that are not contained in the child support order, and he didn't. So you're suing him for that, and he says that you never had such an agreement, that you enrolled the children in sporting activities, and then came to him and said, do you owe me half? Am I reading that correctly?
Your Honor, that's correct.
That's your position.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay, so let's move on to the plaintiff's position that you wanted to change the child support order to not what he was paying, but what he was paying, and half of their sporting activities.
We actually had a verbal agreement.
Well, I'd like you to tell me when that took place, what you said to him, and what he said to you. So tell me first when that verbal agreement took place.
It was 2021, probably, just a conversation between two parents to say if we enroll.
It's a conversation between two parents.
Right.
So he's seeing the children, he's paying his child support, whatever the order was. You have a conversation with him. Is it on the phone or in person?
Caption coming up.
Mr. Vasquez, your father says that he gave you the money. Certainly wasn't a day, because 2 weeks later, he writes back, if we can arrange for me to get the title while you were here, that would be awesome. So the story you just gave me was a whole lot of who shot John.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Desiree and Curtis.
Desiree Surratt claims her ex-boyfriend, Curtis Vasquez, owes for the cost of a car and childcare. Curtis is countersuing for car repairs and vacation expenses.
Tell me first when that verbal agreement took place.
It was 2021, probably, just a conversation between two parents to say if we enroll.
It's a conversation between two parents.
Right.
So he's seeing the children, he's paying his child support, whatever the order was. You have a conversation with him. Is it on the phone or in person?
No, in person.
At your home?
Yes.
Okay. And tell me about the conversation. What did you say to him and what did he say to you?
I don't remember the exact words, but...
Well, that's why we bring these things quickly, because now it's 2 years later.
Yeah.
Right.
So it was basically, well, he wants to play this sport, Angelina wants to do track, this is how much it's going to cost, and his response was just, okay, let me know how much it is, and I'll pay half.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's not quite correct. We don't have just conversation. We don't have any conversation at all. We communicate via text, and I rarely get a response. I've taken care of...
Just a second. We're talking about this one instance.
Okay.
She said that you had a conversation with her where you agreed to pay half of their sporting events. Based on that, I assume that you enrolled the children in the sporting events, paid the fee, and then said to him, this is your half. And he said, I'm not paying that half.
That's not correct, Your Honor. I didn't agree to pay half.
No, I'm not saying you agreed to pay half. That's what her position is.
I actually enrolled my son into soccer.
When?
It was this summer in July, and he was supposed to go for a month, and she took the kids out of the state without my knowledge for an extended vacation. And so I didn't have her pay half of that, and when she came back, she wanted to make that up to him, but that's without my knowledge.
Okay. How much did you pay for soccer?
$75.
So you never had a conversation with her about paying half of this? And it was never reduced to a modified order of the court because you have a court order for support. Okay, so I'm eliminating that. You want to change the order of support, you have to change it in court. Now let's move on to the second thing that you think that he owes you for. Cell phone. Let's hear about the cell phone.
He opened a cell phone account for my daughter.
When?
I don't know when it was.
When did you open a
established.
cell phone account, sir?
About 7 years ago.
And he paid it? He opened an account and he
Either
paid it?
him or his dad. It was a business account.
I don't care.
I don't know
You
if he
didn't
paid
pay it.
Correct. I didn't
You didn't pay it. So your daughter has had a cell phone for the last 7 years? Mm-hmm. Okay. And you didn't see the bills for it?
Correct.
Okay, so he paid it.
Somebody paid it, yes. Yeah.
He paid it.
I paid it, Your Honor.
You didn't pay it.
Correct.
Okay. So now you want money for a cell phone. For what?
Just for the last 6 months that I paid, I never agreed to, so I'm just asking for
Then
half
take
of
the
that.
phone away.
Well, she's 15, she's got
I
a job,
understand that.
and
I understand that. Who bought her the phone?
I bought the phone.
Okay. And how many years ago did you buy the phone?
It was about 1.5 years ago.
Okay. And it was paid for on his plan?
No, I paid for the phone cash.
No. The bills, ongoing bills, were paid for by him and the phone that you bought her 1.5 years ago, because you said you've been paying the bills for 6 months.
Yep.
Is that correct? Whitney, didn't you say I've been paying the bills for the last 6 months?
Yes. Correct.
Well, so when you first got the phone for a year, he was paying the bills.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
Well, he was paying the bills for 7 years, but certainly after you bought the phone. But prior to that, she had a different phone. She had to have had a different phone because he was paying the phone bills for 6 years. Who bought that phone?
I don't know.
Your Honor, I purchased that phone. It was the iPhone XR.
Okay, so you bought the first phone, you bought a second phone. Very nice. And he paid the bills, the phone bills for 6 years, and you paid it for the last 6 months. It's not part of a court order. If you agree to do that, you agree to do that. What are you getting courts involved for?
I never agreed to pay the cell phone.
Well, he never agreed to pay his cell phone when she was 13 or 12. Your parents. He paid it for a long time, now you're paying it. What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm a realtor.
You work in a family business?
Absolutely.
Tell me about the family business.
It's children first and foremost. You know what's best for them.
No, the family business, sir.
Oh, the family business.
You're in real estate. Is it a family
It
business?
is not a family business.
It's just yours. And you've been in real estate for how long?
For about 3 years now. And prior to that, I was in sales. That is a family business, and it's real estate marketing.
That's a family
That's
business.
family business.
You're not involved with that
I am.
anymore. You
Also-
still are.
Yes.
Who owns that business?
Dad,
Your father.
he does, yes.
How many employees do you have?
Just about 10, Your Honor.
So your father employs 10 people and you're one of them.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And what does your father pay you annually?
Oh, it's commission only, so no benefits.
And in the other real estate operation do you have your own office or do you operate out of your father's office?
My own office.
Where?
In Maple Grove, Minnesota.
Do you have any employees?
I don't.
So you work for your father on commission and yourself.
Commission only as well in
Commission
the
only.
real estate market.
Okay. Did you file tax returns last year?
No, I did not.
Is there any reason for that?
Just late. Just over.
You're late. You're a year late.
Yeah.
What about the year before? Did you file tax return?
Yes, I did. Yes, I did, Your Honor.
And how much did you declare as income the year before last?
It's like 55, I think. 55,000, yep.
Okay, so phone bill, I've taken care of the phone bill. You paid it for her, fine. And if you don't want to pay it anymore, let her get an after-school job and pay for her own phone. Now, the next thing that you're suing for is, according to your complaint, you had a car that you weren't using. Mr. Vasquez has a father who wanted a car. It is your claim that Mr. Vasquez, without your permission, sold the car, your car, to his father for $700, and you didn't get any of that money.
Correct.
Mr. Vasquez says his father was going to buy the car. He drove it. He didn't want to buy it because it had issues, and it's sitting in his father's driveway waiting for you to come and get it, and that he never got $700 from his father for the car. That's his position, correct?
No, there's a correction. I did get 700 and paid him back the next day because the car broke down within a day.
Because what?
It broke down within a day.
Okay, so you did sell it to him.
Yes, yes. We were in the middle of the transaction. He paid for the car at the office, which is about 10 miles away from home. And while driving the car home, it broke down. So we hadn't received the title or anything, so I returned the money.
Caption, coming up.
Okay, you planned a trip to Portugal in August of 2022.
That's correct.
Airplane tickets. Where'd you get the money for all that?
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Desiree and Curtis.
Desiree Surratt has accused her ex-boyfriend, Curtis Vasquez, of selling her car without her permission. Curtis claims he refunded the money, and she can take the car back.
Okay, so you did sell it to him.
Yes, yes. We were in the middle of the transaction. He paid for the car at the office, which is about 10 miles away from home. And while driving the car home, it broke down. So we hadn't received the title or anything, so I returned the money.
Is the car still titled in your name?
Yes.
So go get it.
I don't want the car, no.
Well, it's your car. It's titled in your name.
Yes, but apparently I have text messages showing he sold the car without my permission.
Whether he did or not,
also-
well, he can't sell the car because title never transferred.
Right.
And he's saying, you can go and get the car. It's sitting in the driveway. His father doesn't want it. Title didn't transfer. He didn't get money for the car and keep it. It was a sort of silly transaction because what you are suggesting is he should have said to his father, that's it, it was sold, it's sold as is. You can't have your $700 back.
Right, and my understanding is that his dad through a conversation that I had with his dad did not
No, you
get
can't
the money back.
You can't tell me about the conversation. If you have text messages
I do.
between them, I would like to see them.
I do, yes.
Desiree hands documents to Kevin.
So there's those text messages. And I also have several text messages where Curtis agrees to pay me the money and also telling me the
This
car
is
ran
Desiree.
phenomenal.
Curtis said you would take possession of the Kia, but I asked about the title. Big Curtis, is that your father?
Your Honor, yes, it is.
Okie dokie. Mr. Vasquez, your father says that he gave you the money.
That's correct.
And that it certainly wasn't a day, because 2 weeks later, he writes back, sorry, not good at checking my text. If we could arrange for me to get the title while you were here, that would be awesome. That's 2 weeks later. Your father didn't say to her, he gave me the money back. He said, I want the title. That's 2 weeks later. So the story you just gave me was a whole lot of who shot John.
Well, Your Honor, there's one thing that we need to clear up right away is that it was never sold without her knowledge.
Just a second. Now what I'm asking you, sir, I'm saying that your original story to me was that I sold my father the car with her agreement. That's what you say
That's
here
right.
for $700. He gave me the $700, but am I correct, Whitney, that the car broke down the next day?
He said the car broke down within a day.
Within a day, and so you gave him his money back. Well, that's not what your father says here, sir. That's not what your father says here.
I went back and forth with him for days, but I gave him his money back.
No, what you told me was a lie. You told me it broke down the day you gave him his money back. The initial conversation she had was May 9th. And then May 16th, she's having a conversation with Big Curtis. That's your father. Sorry for not checking my texts. Can you get me the title? Which means 2 weeks later, he wanted the title. And then your father says about you, Curtis owes me big time money, and I can't get money from him either. That's your father.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yes.
correct, Your Honor.
Big Curtis says to her, can you tell me what problem does Curtis have that caused him to spend massive amounts of money in such a short period of time? She answers, drugs, alcohol, gambling, he's a functional addict. He even got around $40,000 and he blew every penny. So the $700 you gave him for the car, I'm just going to file a small claims. For whatever reason, he's refusing to give it to me. It's not your fault that he stole the money from me. Just FYI, I have no issue giving you the title. Okay. So far, he owes you $700 for the car. And then we're finished. Get Big Curtis the title. Mail it to him. He sends you his address.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Great. Now you have a counterclaim, Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, Your Honor. I have some evidence I'd like to present.
Don't give me all that nonsense. You say that the plaintiff canceled a vacation trip. You made plane arrangements to take your children somewhere, and she took the children out of state. And car repairs that you gave her money for, car repairs, $250. I helped her repair her car and spent $250 on parts. When was that?
That was the car in question that we were just talking about.
Okay, you planned a trip to Portugal in August of 2022.
That's correct.
Airplane tickets. Where'd you get the money for all that?
My parents helped me with the purchase of the kids' tickets
Why?
because I couldn't afford all of them.
Who was going on the trip?
It was going to be my wife, myself, and 2 kids.
Did you go on the vacation to Portugal with your wife?
No, we did not make it.
You did not make it.
Correct.
Why?
Because she is responsible of...
No, not her. Not with your 2 kids. Did you go with your wife?
No, I didn't.
Why?
I didn't want to go without the kids. It was the whole purpose was to bring the kids to see the grandparents.
Does your wife work?
Yes.
What kind of work does she do?
She's a bartender.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $700. Don't make any more private agreements with him, madam. I think it's a big mistake.
I
We're
agree.
done. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're
Your Honor.
finished.
Thank you.
We're
I
finished.
had one more.
I just ruled that your counterclaim is dismissed.
Okay, Your Honor.
You're finished.
I'm a little disappointed that I didn't get everything that I felt that I was owed.
Well, a bit disappointed. I felt like I had a lot more coming my way.
Number one, I will not do him any favors.
I've taken care of my kids financially for the last 7 years.
Especially of monetary value.
She feels entitled to 6 months, so be it, but I didn't agree to it.
I hope that this is kind of a wake-up call to him
It's completely ridiculous. I'm just tired of having my name dragged through the mud.
to do honest business, whether it's in personal relationship or business.
I take care of my kids.
He's got a long history of owing money, not paying it back.
Always have, and always will, regardless.
He runs through family and friends and dry your pocketbooks and laugh out the door. He doesn't care.
Claim money for a cell phone that, I bought. And, I think this is all to do with spite.
Just my kids. At the end of the day, whatever's best for them.
I just want to be there for the kids, and I just want to be done with the drama.
Judy and Sarah.
I have very little to say about that case, very little thoughts, except that Big Curtis, the defendant's father, doesn't like him.
I didn't get to read the messages, but
Clearly.
I'll
He
take
said,
your
what
word
is he
for it."
doing with all the money? My initial reading of that
Yeah.
case was, maybe she's being unreasonable. She's really not being unreasonable.
Yeah.
I have a feeling there's not a lot more to little Curtis than we were able to see
Yes,
today.
I agree.
That his father, Big Curtis,
I've seen,
understands.
yeah.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
You were in an accident.
Yes, ma'am.
Was the car fixed?
Not at all.
Why not?
Why it didn't get fixed? Because she popped up to my home and caused drama.
And you hit them.
That was my. Oh, sorry.
Am I wrong about that?
No, ma'am.
No, then don't speak.
This is Judy. Selena Brown and Trayon Dupree are suing their customer, Brianna Freeman, for rental car damage and lost wages.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy.
Have a seat, everyone.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge. Case 2174, Brown Dupree versus Freeman.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, who's the business person?
It's us.
That would be you?
Yes,
Your name is Mr. Dupree.
Mr. Dupree.
You a couple?
No, ma'am. It's business partners.
In what business?
Car rental.
How do you know each other?
We met from military.
So you're not a couple, you're just in business together. I just want to know. Don't both smile. I just want to know. Let's go.
We're friends.
Yeah, we're friends. We're friends.
What?
Too.
This is not going to happen for me.
We're not a couple. We're friends. And we decided to go in business together.
Where do you live?
Houston, Texas.
Where does she live?
Houston,
Where does
Texas.
she? Shut.
Houston, Texas.
Does she live in the same place that you do?
In the same home?
In the same place, building?
Oh, no, we don't.
Who do you live with?
Myself.
Who does she live with?
Herself.
When did you meet in the military?
Maybe 2021. Not really sure exactly what month. But
Now, if you're in business together, is the only business you had this one car that we're...
yes, we was just starting.
What kind of work do you do?
Crane operation.
Full-time?
Yes.
And what about you?
I work at a call center.
So that's your primary source of income.
That's correct.
Yes.
And you decided to do this car rental as sort of a side gig.
Yes.
We had just got out the military, so we didn't have a job then. So we did it for a primary source of income.
Well, you can't have one car that you rent as a primary source of income.
We have our military disability check as well, so we have that. And we
How
did the
long were you
cars.
in the military?
Almost 9 years.
And you?
8.
Where did you serve?
Norfolk, Virginia, and Mayport, Florida. Jacksonville, Florida.
So you were never out of the United States?
Yes, I went overseas for
Oh.
deployments, but never
Oh,
stationed.
but where did you go on your deployment?
Bahrain, Dubai, Greece, Italy, all over.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was a great experience.
Yeah, good. What about you?
Only Virginia.
Only Virginia?
Only Virginia.
How did you become disabled in Virginia?
I have no idea.
I mean, you said you're on a military disability, so, I could understand if you deployed someplace else.
I have no idea.
You have no idea what?
Why, I guess, became disabled. Just mentally, I guess. Mental.
Well, you applied for a disability from the Army.
You said what?
What?
I said mental.
Just my own curiosity. I have to see how this is going. How much is your disability benefit from the Army?
2,000.
A month? It's not an answer. Yes is an answer. What about you?
Same.
And is your disability mental or physical?
Both.
Well, your physical disability doesn't inhibit you from being a crane operator.
No, not really.
Great. I love America. Okay, so now you're out, you're both on disability from the Army. You don't have a job yet, so you decide to buy a Mercedes.
That's correct.
What year Mercedes?
2014.
And how much was it?
22,000.
Is there a note on the car?
Yes.
For how much?
$350.
Per month?
Yes.
How much of a loan did you take out?
23, one of them. It's not too much.
Car was only 22.
The car was 22.
I don't know the exact number that the car is right now, but it was between 21 and 23,000 that we owed on it. And I took the loan out.
Where is the car now?
In Texas.
With whom?
She has it right now.
What was the rental agreement that you had with Miss Freeman? You didn't form a business corporation or anything else, am I correct?
Yes, we have an LLC.
And the sole asset is this car.
Yes.
You bought the car when? Give me the date again.
I think it was in July.
July of 2022?
That's correct.
And when did you rent the car to the defendant?
August 27th.
Do you have the rental agreement?
Selena produces documents.
I don't have the original agreement because it was in my car that was stolen, but I made her take a picture with her driver's license and send it to me. So this is a copy, and this is before she signed it.
And I have after I signed.
It's literally the same thing.
Yes.
And so you know you...
Let her talk.
Judy reviews the documents.
Okay. What I'd like you to do is take a look at this, Ms. Freeman, and tell me if you have it. It's the same
Yes,
one she had.
ma'am.
Okay. And this is the entire agreement, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Caption, coming up.
I don't know why you're arguing. It doesn't appear, madam, it doesn't appear as if you are losing this case. So I don't know why you feel compelled to make it hostile.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Treyon, Selena, and Brianna.
Selena Brown and Treyon Dupree claim their customer, Brianna Freeman, owes for damages to their Mercedes rental car. Brianna is countersuing for lost wages.
So there's nothing in this agreement that prevents her from allowing somebody else to use the car, and the agreement specifically says that if anything happens to the car, she is responsible to use her insurance, and you have a policy number, your policy number for insurance. Okay, so your boyfriend was driving the car on what date?
The 1st.
First of what?
September. And I have the accident report if you want that.
Not yet, I may, not yet, but there was an accident and the car was damaged.
Correct.
Anybody have a photograph of the damage to the car?
I have it on my phone if you would like to see that.
I would.
While we're waiting, Your Honor, I found the LLC filing that lists both of them as the
Principals.
principals, but they list the same address for both of them. Their residents are listed as the same.
Oh, really? Interesting. Want to say that a little louder?
I just said I found both of them listed as managing members of the LLC with the same address for both of them listed.
I lived in a different state when we started. I was in Florida.
We don't live together. That's what y'all are saying.
It just lists.
Yeah,
lists
that's
the
just
place
the
of business
LLC
as well.
address.
It's in my boyfriend's phone because the number that's on the contract was his phone at the time. So if you want to see.
I had a picture right here.
And I have multiple pictures as well.
Of the car?
That's correct.
Well, that's what I'm asking you for. I said I want to see pictures of the damage to the car. You were in an accident?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you agreed in this contract that if you were in an accident, Brianna, that would be you,
Yes.
will use her insurance if anything happens during the rental. Brianna will be responsible to pay out of pocket.
Correct.
You signed that?
Correct.
Okay, so you were in an accident. I don't care whose fault it is because it doesn't have anything to do with fault. Picture of the car.
I have multiple. It's
another paper picture.
It's a couple pictures, so you can just check as well.
Selena hands photos to Kevin, who brings them to Judy. She reviews images of a damaged vehicle, then gestures to Brianna's boyfriend, Eshwin.
Stand up. Somebody hit you in the rear?
No, in the front.
Oh, this is the front of the car?
They ran a stop sign.
What?
They ran a stop sign. I was coming up, they were coming across.
Well, whatever. You had damage in the front of your car. In my mind, that usually means that you hit somebody.
No, they came across from me. They ran a stop sign in front of me.
And you hit them. Okay, well, that's what it usually means, that you hit somebody in the front. Okay, and that was on September 1st.
All right.
Did you notify your insurance company?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to see proof of that.
So these are the claims, the quotes they gave me to fix the car. Also, this is when I let her know, Ms. Brown, what was covered under my policy.
I'd like to see it.
So that's that. It shows what's covered in my policy.
Was the car fixed?
Absolutely not.
No.
It was not.
Not at all.
Why not?
Because I didn't talk to Trayon, Mr. Departy, however you say his name, until the day, September the 5th. All of my business was going through Mrs. Brown. So I don't know if he just found out what happened, but when I called the insurance on the 1st, they let me know that he was the owner of the vehicle. I said, okay, they said they'll have to go through everything through him so that the car can get fixed, because I wasn't the title holder. I said, that's fine. I said, okay, due to the fact that the car got wrecked, I let her know that once the car goes to Mercedes-Benz to get fixed, they give a loaner vehicle. I let them know everything that was covered. Why it didn't get fixed? Because she popped up to my home and caused drama. I lost my job behind it, so forth and so on.
What does that have to do with your responsibility? Your boyfriend had an accident with the car. You have a contract that says you're going to fix it.
Because Trayon said it wasn't enough.
What do you mean Trayon said it wasn't enough?
I sent him the quote for their adjusters, and he said that wasn't enough to get it fixed. And I have that text message from Trayon.
Just a second. I'd like to see your quote from your company.
Judy reviews a document.
Where did you take the car for them to send an adjuster to take a look at the car?
I had to take pictures of the car and upload it to the app they sent me, and that's how they got those quotes.
They have an estimate here of $3,000. Did you get an estimate to fix the car?
Yes, we got an estimate.
I'd like to see it.
In person.
In person. That was just the picture, and when I
Okay,
talked...
got it.
Trayon hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy.
May I interject a little bit? Because Brianna kind of lying, and she raised her right hand. So Brianna didn't notify us that the car was wrecked until September 3rd. She told us that she was in the hospital with her dying father.
Listen
correct?
to me. Listen to me. I don't care.
She lied about
I don't care.
She lied about how the car got wrecked.
I don't care. It doesn't matter how the car got wrecked. She has an obligation to fix it. She has an obligation to fix it. And to be quite honest with you, this is a Mercedes, and this car can't be fixed for $2,900. Can't. He's absolutely right. This car can't be fixed based upon that damage. And he wasn't prepared to say here.
No, it wasn't that at all. So once, I guess, he got involved in the business, I was talking to Ms. Brown. She said she had a rental the next day or something in that manner. And I said, okay, well, let me find a Mercedes-Benz that can actually get your car in so you can get this loaner car for you to rent your car out. Also, in the midst of that, I was gonna pay for the rental that she had that was so much wanted to cancel on her. So I said, okay, Mercedes has a loaner car and can accept your car at the time.
Well, they couldn't fix this car for $2,900.
That's what they gave me, and they said that if it went to a Mercedes-Benz shop, they will honor that.
I don't know that at all.
That's what they told me.
I don't care.
But regardless of the price of getting the car fixed, I was gonna pay, because I know that we was at fault for it. Quote unquote, it was my contract that I signed. That wasn't an issue.
Well, then you can take that up with your insurance company.
Correct. I didn't have a problem with paying.
Yeah, then you can take it up with your insurance company.
Caption, coming up.
She lied about how the accident happened. So they denied.
Don't listen to me. You started to say that before. I told you I don't care.
She's just lying and cost us so much money. Like,
madam, listen to me.
Selena lowers her eyes and trembles.
You okay? Good.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Trayon, Selena, and Brianna.
Selena Brown and Trayon Dupree have accused their customer, Brianna Freeman, of damaging their Mercedes rental car after her boyfriend was in an accident.
He has an estimate that looks like a pretty legitimate estimate. They bought the car. It's a relatively new car. They paid $22,000 for it. Your boyfriend wrecked it, and he has an estimate, which looks reasonable, for $8,000 to fix it. And if your insurance company is dragging their heels and not paying what they should, you take that up with your insurance company.
I never got that quote, by the way.
Which quote?
The quote that the $8,000, I never got that.
Well, I'm going to show it to you.
Oh, it's probably be true.
$8,319.
Her insurance denied it because she lied. She lied about how the accident happened. So they denied.
Don't listen to me. You started to say that before. I told you I don't care.
My insurance.
Just a
never-
second.
oh.
Your insurance what?
Never denied the claim.
I have proof. I talked to him. I have proof. I have the email where he said they denied it because
They definitely denied it.
Because I told them to stop because she popped up at my house.
because
That's
she
why.
lied about the accident. Because we tried to get it through our insurance as well.
I don't know why you're arguing.
I'm
It
not-
doesn't appear,
she's
it doesn't appear,
lying.
madam, it doesn't appear as if you are losing this case. So I don't know why you feel compelled to make it hostile. I don't understand why.
She's just lying and cost us so much money. Like,
Madam, listen to me. We're all told.
Selena lowers her eyes and trembles.
You okay? Good. Your car is in this condition at whose house? At your house?
that's correct.
And the car, since the accident, which was 4 months ago, has it been rented? No. Is it drivable?
Yes, it's driving.
When was the last time you drove it?
Last week,
When was the last time you rented it?
since Brianna.
Have you been making the payments on the car?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Who's been making the payments?
Both.
What is the monthly payment?
$350. $350.
50. You told me that. The insurance up to date?
So we had insurance, we had commercial insurance on it. But when I put in the claim and told them what happened, because we did get lied to about what actually happened, and we didn't get informed of the accident till the 3rd. But when I put in the claim, I put it in how they told us what happened. And my insurance, they found the police report before we did, and they seen what actually happened. So they felt like we was trying to do fraud. So the guy, he told us, it's better for us to pull the claim because it's gonna look like it's fraud on our part. So they dropped us from the insurance.
So they dropped you after
Yes,
the accident?
yes.
Can I see the police report now?
Brianna hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
Well, this police report indicates that the other person was at fault.
That was my. Oh, sorry.
Am I wrong about that?
No, ma'am.
No, then don't speak. This police report, did you see it?
Yes, got it right here.
I'd like to see what you have. This police report clearly says that Unit 1, which was the woman, ran a stop sign. That's what it says. Why would your insurance company drop you?
Because we gave the story that she told us, so it looks like we're doing fraud.
Yeah.
And basically, ignorance isn't an excuse for them. So
Actually, that's pretty outrageous.
We just told it was a hit and run.
she told us it was a hit and run, so we told them that. She said she was in the hospital when it got hit, and then we found the report. She waited until the day that we had a rental to tell us. We had another rental on the 3rd that afternoon. She told us that morning.
On the 3rd.
That's correct.
And the accident was on the 1st.
That's correct.
Okay. I think you have to get your car fixed. I think that the fact that your insurance company canceled your insurance when it was clear that he was not at fault in this accident, at least according to the police report, is actually pretty outrageous that they canceled your insurance. Is there any insurance on the car now?
Yes, it's regular insurance on it.
Not commercial anymore?
Not right now because we're not renting it.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $8,000. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Treyon and Selena, then Brianna.
I'm glad we won and everything. I felt like, we deserved more than we got, but at the end of the day, we won the case. I'm not mad at the decision.
I'm fine with it regardless because I know I was trying to get it fixed. It was just a timing issue.
She lied about everything. She literally lied about everything. She pulled out a gun on me.
Lying, I don't have anything to lie about. It's all in my evidence.
Like, she told me to come basically get the car and the keys in the mailbox. And when I went over there to get it, she pulled a gun out on me because I took my wig off.
She posted stuff saying I lied about things. I pulled my gun out on her. Like, girl, I don't have a gun, like at all.
I think that they put it inside, so they checked them. But they said they couldn't go inside, so they checked. They're behind me.
They checked them. They wasn't able to prove that they had a gun because,
So she said it was a gun, it was a bat, and like I had to get checked twice by the police officer. And it was like she came over here looking for problems because the car was gonna get towed.
It's definitely a risk, but make sure we're prepared for stuff like that from now on.
No hard feelings, supporting black businesses, but it is what it is. You know what you know, it's just facts.
I think I should just be grateful. I'm just gonna be quiet and just be grateful.
Judy and Sarah.
You know, I'm sitting here trying to think of what the takeaway is on this case, and I can't think of the takeaway.
I mean, I'm having a hard time as well, but I think accountability and responsibility could be a good one. The defendant knows what she signed, that any damage to the car from her boyfriend, her, anyone while the car was in her possession is on her. But what we see a lot of is emotional issues come into play when people know their responsibility, but then there's an emotional issue. She came to my job, she harassed me, she came to my house and yelled at me, whatever it is, and they think they can use that as a justification to get out of their accountability. And although I'm not promoting going to someone's house for some self-help, that's not a reason for you not to follow through on your responsibility.
On your contractual responsibility.
Yes. Which she was clearly aware of. So maybe that.
That's the takeaway. Maybe that. You're right.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
He was going to be our third roommate.
He helped out with the rent. Then he helped himself to your girlfriend.
Correct.
Hey, try not to hold each other's hands. Let's do the coochie someplace else.
This is Judy Jalil is suing his former roommates, Katie Calderon and Amante Nepomuceno, for rent and the cost of 2 cats.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Kevin approaches Judge Judy.
Case 2170, Jalil versus Calderon Nepomuceno.
Thank you. You're welcome. Oh, my goodness.
Judy turns to Katie.
Calderon.
Hello.
What's your first name?
Amante.
Amante?
Yeah.
Good. It's much easier than your last name for me to pronounce. Mr. Jalil, this roughly is what the case is about. You and Miss Calderon were in a relationship for a period of time. You decided to take an apartment. You were both on the lease. So far, correct?
Correct.
Your arrangement with Miss Calderon, which seems to be consistent in both your complaint and your answer, is that you had a much better paying job. She was going to provide the food and some other stuff for the house, and you were going to be covering the rent when you lived together, which you did.
Correct.
There came a time when Amante, who was a friend of yours, came to live with you. According to you, he was going to help out with the rent.
Correct.
He came, he lived with you, he helped out with the rent for maybe a period of time, and then he helped himself to your girlfriend.
Correct.
Now they're a couple. When you were no longer a couple with Miss Calderon, she stayed in the apartment for a period of time, but then they both left.
Correct.
And you're suing both of them for rent and for the return of 2 cats that they took when they left. You claim the cats are yours.
That's correct.
That's what the case is about. And some cat expenses in the event that I let them keep the cat. Cats, 2 cats. So when did you and Miss Calderon sign a lease together?
We signed the lease together at the end of July with the landlord present.
July of 2022?
July of 2021. Correct.
And it was for a year?
Correct.
And you had a job working for whom, sir?
I worked for a company called Steris.
What do they do?
They provide medical equipment to hospitals all over the world.
How long have you been working for them?
I'm going to have 8 years under my belt this year.
And when you moved into the apartment in July of 2021, what kind of work was Miss Calderon doing?
At the time, she was working at an animal hotel.
It was a pet daycare boarding facility.
Okay. Were you an hourly employee?
I was an hourly employee.
And I am correct that when you moved in July, your arrangement was that you were going to pay the rent.
That was
the arrangement.
Correct.
When did Armante come to live with you?
About August to...
That's
right.
correct.
Shh.
Judy glares at Katie.
Amante was going to be our third roommate.
You mean 1, 2, 3?
Correct.
Well, you're not roommates, really. You and the defendant, Miss Calderon, were not roommates. You shared a room.
We shared a room, and
Armante was going to live where?
In another room.
And what was your arrangement with Armante with regard to paying rent?
We would split the rent 3 ways.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And how much was your share of the rent?
I would say approximately 927.
How long did you live there?
I was there when they signed the lease. I watched it all happen when they signed the lease. I came in, they signed
Okay.
everything.
Well, you didn't sign the lease.
I did not.
But you were there from the beginning?
Yes.
And it was your agreement with the plaintiff that you would pay a third of the rent?
Yes.
Great.
We asked the landlord
Okay,
to.
so, hey, try not to hold each other's hands. Let's do the coochie someplace else. So you agreed with the plaintiff that despite the fact that you were not on the lease, you were going to assume the responsibility of a third of the rent, $927.
Yes.
So you moved in July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. You left in April?
Yeah.
So you were there for 9 months?
Yes.
Did you pay rent for the 9 months?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct?
He paid rent for about the 7.5 months.
Okay. And then you left.
Yes.
Why did you leave?
I decided to leave because he decided to go to another place he was offered. So
What do you
I
mean he
could-
decided to go to another place
He
that was...
got a place from his grandparents in another city. So I couldn't hold down the rent with her. So I decided to leave to save money and go back to my parents' house.
Now, Mr. Jalil, you see, you don't make up a story like that, like he just told me. A lot of that has the ring of truth to it. Where are you living now?
My grandparents' house in an in-law unit.
So when did you tell them that you were going to a different place?
In March.
When did you leave?
I left in July.
Did you let him know that you were staying until the end of the lease?
I
what? What?
I discussed with them that I would be leaving, but I would stick around to help them find either a different location or even suggesting that we all went back to our respected families just to, call it.
Mr. Jalil, this isn't working for you. I have to tell you something, sir. This case is not working for you at all. And it's only because Mr. Ramonte is very direct with me that you're suing them for $10,000. Where does that come from in your mind? Your agreement with her was you were going to pay the rent. You were never out of pocket. Your agreement was you were going to pay the rent. He paid his rent when he was there. He paid his 1/3. You then told them you were leaving. That's a whole different story than what you wrote in your complaint, Mr. Giulio. Do you understand?
Correct.
It's a whole different story. So, at best, Armante would owe you for 3 months' rent if they just left. But you told them that you were leaving. Now, when did you find out that they were a couple?
I found out at the end of April.
Were you all living together?
Yes.
So you just had 2 months left to the lease. So he was paying you, he paid you in March, you had May, June, you signed the lease in July, so it was over at the end of June, June 30th.
It would have been over at the end of July, Your Honor.
Well, she doesn't owe you any money for rent. At most, he owes you 2 months' rent. Tell me why you left.
My job doesn't pay that well, so I decided to go back to my parents' house.
When you took this apartment, this expensive apartment that was almost $3,000 a month rent, had you had a discussion with Armante about moving in with you before?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Jalil, I'm reading your complaint because something wasn't registering right with me. You say you moved into the apartment together in August of 2021. Then you go through a whole bunch of stuff about a cat and then another adopted cat. You said in October we adopted a second cat. Around this same time, a third roommate moved in to shoulder some of the rent. Well, that's not true. He moved in right at the beginning.
And that was...
That was what?
That was...
A mistake.
That was a mistake.
Okay. But Armante acknowledges that he agreed right at the beginning. He volunteered the fact that he was there at the lease signing because it was agreed at the lease signing that he was going to pay a third of the rent. So, sir, you owe him rent as long as you show me that you've paid the rent. You moved out in July?
Yes.
And you paid your rent through July, or were you evicted?
No, I paid my rent in July.
Through July?
Yes.
Okay. 1854. Armante, you owe him $1,854. That's for 2 months' rent. Got it?
Okay.
I'm not subtracting anything because you stole his girlfriend.
That's fair.
Caption: Coming up.
What were you requesting when you filed your small claims case?
Either the return of both cats or $5,000.
That's not happening for you, Mr. Jalil.
And later today,
There were restrictions put on the space.
No.
You have to pay attention,
Okay.
sir, because what I'm suggesting is really in your favor.
Oh, okay. Let me. Okay.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Kamar, Katie, and Amante.
Kamar Jalil claims his former roommates, Katie Calderon and Amante Nepomuceno, are wrongfully keeping his cats and owe him rent money.
Now let's deal with the issue with the cats. She doesn't owe you any rent. That was not your agreement with her. You moved out in July, August, September, October, November, December. 5 months ago, she's had both cats, right?
Correct.
She says they're her cats. When did you first file a small claims case?
September of 2022.
What were you requesting when you filed your small claims case? Be careful.
I was requesting either the return of both cats or $5,000, which was the accumulated expense of not just the cats, but also the expenses of her dogs as well. So any animal expenses for the time.
That's not happening for you, Mr. Jalil. When the cats were either registered or went to the vet, whose name is on the sheet as owner?
I believe it was Miss Calderon.
Is that correct?
That's correct.
And she owns the cats, and she's had them for the last 5 months. I suggest that you go and adopt 2 more if you want some more cats. Do you understand?
Yes.
You were living together as a couple. However, your friend Amante has to pay you for the couple of months' rent that he didn't, because he says, not you, he volunteered that was your agreement from the very beginning. So he owes you $1,854. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I think he's just kind of butthurt that I moved on.
At least now I can put everything behind me and say that I did try.
I didn't think it would escalate this far.
All you can do in a situation like this is just you learn from it and you move on.
The heart wants what the heart wants.
This is what it is. It's life.
Judy.
I find fascinating, Sarah, that people will write and or be assisted in writing a complaint and an answer, but they read it over. This man is an intelligent man. He has a serious job for 8 years. First of all, he was suing for $10,000. Come up with that money. $5,000 for the cat's expense is ridiculous. But his complaint had really nothing to, even the timeline.
As your clerk, I know that is a pet peeve of yours when
I don't understand
they
it.
don't
You know,
match up.
if you're going to tell a lie,
at least tell a consistent lie.
right.
I think the right thing happened. I think the defendant friend admitted himself that he owed the rent, and that was great, even though he probably should have just kept his mouth shut.
And not said, I was there when the lease was signed. This was always our agreement.
Yeah.
I was going to be the
But
third
he was
roommate.
honest, which we always appreciate, and so I think the right thing.
So
I think he needs to, like you say, put a period, move on.
move on. Anyway, all happy, and they look happy. They couldn't keep their hands off each other.
Case number 2172, Foster Gardner versus Menzel. All parties, please come forward.
Jamar Foster and Sean Garner are suing record producer Livin Manziel for event costs after Livin canceled their Halloween party.
Who's Mr. Garner? Mr. Foster.
Right here.
Are you going to be speaking? You're standing in the speaking spot.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. According to what I read, the defendant rents a music studio. Is that correct?
I rent a facility in which I own a music studio.
You rent in someone else's building.
Yes.
And you're recording people. During the course of your business, you decided to enter into an agreement with the defendant to use that recording studio, which she rents from that space, which she rents from a landlord.
May I correct you, please, Your Honor?
Yes.
She actually is a facility that has multiple units in it. She runs a studio, and then there's other event space inside of that same facility.
Okay, give me an idea of how large the space is.
I believe we were quoted something like 5,800 square feet.
And so you have a music studio, and around it is other open space.
Yes.
You decided to go into some sort of a business with her. You wanted to run events,
Yes, ma'am.
social events, nothing to do with the music studio.
Absolutely not.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And according to you, you gave her $6,000,
Yes, ma'am.
sort of front money to start using that space.
Yes, ma'am.
Subsequent to giving her the money, according to you, there were restrictions put on the space, on the number of people you could have, the kind of parties you could have, etc.
No, absolutely. I apologize.
Well, you have to pay attention,
Okay.
sir, because what I'm suggesting is really in your favor.
Oh, okay. Let me. Okay.
So, is really in your favor, so you have to think.
Okay.
Subsequent to giving her, that means after giving her the money, restrictions were put on the kinds of events and the number of people you could have in the space. Is that true or not true?
That is absolutely true.
No, that's not.
I'll get to you in a second.
Okay.
And you want your $6,000 back.
Yes, ma'am. And
That's what it's about. The defendant does not deny that you gave her $6,000. And then I'm going to hear what her defense is. So I want you to tell me when, for the first time, did you have a discussion with the defendant about going into this business venture where you would front the money and whatever events you would have there, you would reap the benefit, the financial benefit from that. When did you have that discussion with her?
Okay, so we met living at the end of August of 2022. We actually signed the agreement pretty fast. We signed the contract agreement on September 1st.
May I see the agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
There was no agreement signed, so I don't know how it could be signed.
She keeps arguing that.
Just a second. Could you be quiet?
Yes, ma'am.
Jamar hands the document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
So in your hands.
Shh. What's...
That's the studio that she runs?
Sarah, you have to sort of explain it, because I don't see signatures. You know, I'm used to looking at contracts where people sign things. But I know you can sign things by DocuSign now. Your signature isn't on here.
Yes, ma'am.
And...
That looks like a signature from a DocuSign or some sort of online.
Okay. Is that you?
This was a proposal that I did. I do not even own it yet as a DBA.
Just a second. It's getting better. Don't say anything. This is your proposal. Now I'm going to read it.
Okay.
And your masterpiece management.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Well, so this is sort of easy. You prepared this proposal. Speak.
Yes, after.
Just a second. You prepared this proposal.
Yes, ma'am.
And as a result of this proposal, you received and deposited $6,000.
Yes.
Yes. Well, then you have a binding contract. Okay? So that's what I'm telling you. You have a binding contract. And there is nothing in this contract that limits the kinds of events or the number of people or anything else with regard to this space. All it says is business activities, event planning, and event rentals. Nothing else. And this is your proposal, so the terms of it are construed if there's any material question, since you prepared the agreement, which became a contract once you accepted their $6,000. I view the terms of the agreement most harshly against you because you prepared the document. And it says, this agreement cannot be amended without the written consent of all parties.
Yes.
Yes. So signed the agreement, you got the money, and then at some point, according to them and according to you, you made certain limitations on the kinds of events, the numbers of people, et cetera.
That is...
Now, that happened, according to you, because you do not own that space, you rent that space, and there was a problem with the first party that they threw.
Correct.
Come on, we're not talking about Gone with the Wind here. We're not talking about a 6-volume masterpiece. We're talking about a yes or a no.
Caption, coming up.
Based upon this proposal, they gave you $6,000, which you deposited into your bank account. That means a contract was created. That's the agreement. I'm telling you, that's the law.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Jamar, Sean, and Livin.
Jamar Foster and Sean Garner claim record producer Livin Manziel broke their agreement by canceling their event. Livin is countersuing for the costs of a recording session.
Okay, there was a party that got out of hand.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and after that party that got out of hand, too many people or whatever it was, your landlord complained.
Yes.
Okay. And it was after that that you told your two partners that the...
We are not partners.
Yeah, according to this, you are.
We didn't finalize the agreement.
This is a finalized agreement, madam. I just said to you, I want you to pay attention. This is your proposal. Based upon this proposal, they gave you $6,000, which you deposited into your bank account. That means a contract was created. Pop, that's the agreement. I'm telling you, that's the law.
Okay.
You prepared the proposal, you signed it, they said, okay, and they fulfilled their part of the agreement by giving you $6,000, which you accepted. Got it? Got it? And you can't, according to the agreement that you prepared, modify this agreement any other way than a written contract signed by both parties. You can't change the rules. Did you know that this was rented space?
We didn't have all of the details about the place.
Well, see, next time you should know what you're dealing with, whether she's the owner or whether she's not the owner, whether she's a renter, whether she has the ability to rent out to sublease for events. I mean, all of these things, before you give somebody $6,000, you should know that. Okay. And you had one event at the space?
No, we actually didn't get an opportunity to throw any events at the space at all. The event that you were speaking of, she had partnered with another group of promoters and individuals to throw that party. So you
didn't have anything to do with that? What was it, a Halloween party or something? It was a Halloween party, but that wasn't with you?
No, that wasn't.
Is that correct?
He was a part of the event.
Is that correct, that
No.
it was with other people?
Yes, it was correct. It was with other people. They were just associated with the event. They worked at the event. And
I don't care whether they worked at the event. You received money from other people for an event.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, let's be clear. And after that event, you imposed additional restrictions on the use of the space.
No,
Hold on a second.
They knew about the event.
Hold on. They can't tell me what they knew. This is your contract.
They called a fire marshal.
My landlord contacted me that the neighbors were complaining. People were parking on their lawns 90 minutes into the party, but it was not their party. Somebody else paid you for it. The next party they wanted to throw involved minors, and I told them absolutely not.
Yes, ma'am.
I just made it clear what types of events would be approved. Well, you can't do that. I'm just telling you, you can't do that.
Ma'am, I'm not allowed to throw events that have out drugs for children.
You have to understand something. You can do whatever you want as long as you put it in a contract. You prepared the contract. This contract is silent as to any restrictions on the space for events. So you have to give them their $6,000 back because they didn't have an event. They got nothing of value for their $6,000.
Correction. They were managing an artist whenever I met them that they were responsible for paying. So I'm countersuing them for $1,050.
Just a second.
Okay.
$6,000 they get back.
Okay.
Easy? That's a contract case. Now, you have a counterclaim, and your counterclaim is for $1,000 because you say they owe you that for a rental that they did for an artist that they manage.
I provided my services as a recording artist and a music producer for their artists. I provided them with 2 exclusive beats.
Well, show me the contract with them.
I have.
Just show me the contract with them.
There was no contract.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $6,000. Counterclaim dismissed. We're done. Thank you very
Court
much.
is adjourned.
I was just trying to have a proposal, not a finalized agreement.
Well, I appreciate us getting some type of justice out of the situation.
They came in wanting to do multiple things, and I was excited for my small business.
We tried as much as we could to help out and make sure that we increase the revenue streams inside of that business.
They're actually going to be hosting hookahs with children at your event in your space. I'm not comfortable with that.
To ever associate us with any type of drug use or abuse, especially involving children, that was just an inaccurate claim.
I think it's better just to part ways.
Move over to bigger and better things.
Sarah.
I was going to tell you I had the invitation, per se, for the event for Halloween that they had put together. So they put a lot of time and effort into planning the party. It seemed very legitimate. There was notes about security. There was notes about no alcohol, food and drink will be provided. So I could tell that they had put in a lot of effort to hosting this event. And although it wasn't a malicious breach on the defendant's part, I understand she hosted a party that had nothing to do with the plaintiffs, that she got into a little bit of hot water. So to be cautious, she was letting them know. hey, I can't host these types of events with a lot of people, it makes the street too crowded, whatever the reason. However, I disagree with you because I would have given them the full $10,000 that they were asking because although not a malicious breach, and I understand her concern after having the incident with the previous party, but that's not their fault.
You believe that the difference between the cost of one venue to another should be ascribed to them. It's interesting, but the $6,000 was to cover a lot of events. This is one event, so...
I see your point now that you put it that way. I
Maybe,
just think if you were going to make them whole, they should receive their expectant damages as well, or whatever they relied on based on the contract.
I accept your opinion and perspective.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Now you want to tell me why you stopped paying rent?
There was a flood in the house, and I said, oh my God, there's water everywhere in the house. What's going on?
Where did the leak come from?
We don't know. They never told us.
Absolutely not.
And 3 days later, we get an eviction notice on our door.
This is Judy Justice. Kellerman and Monica Tway are suing their former tenants, Carl and Renee Antonucci, for property damage, unpaid rent, and a bathtub.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Hello, Judge. Case 2154, Hellerman, Tway versus Antonucci.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Judy turns to Renee.
Miss Antonucci, the plaintiff, Miss Hellerman, gave you a job.
Yes.
When?
It was probably February of 2021.
Where had you worked prior to that?
I just worked for myself.
Worked for yourself doing the
And
same?
cleaning.
Cleaning.
Yes, and I worked for Rite Aid as assistant manager.
And your husband was in prison?
For a year last year.
He was in prison on a 2 to 10 year sentence, correct?
A rider. It's called the rider program, and it's about a 1 year program.
You were convicted in the state of Idaho for what, sir, and when?
It was 2012 was a third DUI.
Mm-hmm. And at that time, you were sentenced to 2 to 10 years.
Oh, correct. Yes. My apologies.
I just read it online, sir. Yeah. It's not a secret. It's out there. So you were sentenced from 2 to 12 with a minimum of 2 years. And the rest of the sentence, you were supposed to be on probation.
Correct.
You violated the probation and you were sent back to prison.
Correct.
And that decision, violating your probation, you appealed.
Correct.
And the appellate court, the highest court in the state of Idaho, affirmed the lower court decision violating your parole.
Probation, yes, correct.
Your probation. And that was just 6 months ago.
No, it was...
February of 2022 is when the opinion was published. Does that sound right?
Yes, the response to that, yes, correct.
Yes. So what was your release date from jail?
It was January 11th.
Just a second, don't answer for him.
January 11th, yeah.
January 11th of 2022.
Correct.
Now, you had been working for the plaintiff while he was incarcerated, Miss Antonucci, without incident. That be a fair statement? You were happy with them?
I wasn't getting paid enough, but yes.
Nobody's ever getting paid enough. Even I don't get paid enough.
Right.
Everybody thinks they're worth more than they're getting.
Right.
You didn't quit. You didn't complain. Now, at some point, when your husband got out of jail, there was a question about where you were going to live. Were you living in the property in question before he got out of jail?
No.
No. So he was getting out of jail. Where were you living while he was in jail?
I was in Donnelly, Idaho, in our motorhome.
Is there a reason that when he got out of jail, he couldn't go to the motorhome with you?
He did.
And then you tell me how you ended up in their property.
Shauna and Joel took us to dinner, and...
They took you to dinner for what reason?
I don't know, just to take us to dinner.
Well, that was nice.
Yes, it was nice.
Very nice. So far you're working for people that you seem to like. Your husband is incarcerated. He gets out of jail. I assume you told him he was getting out of jail, that that's why he was around now. I assume you told him that he had been in prison.
Yes.
Okay. And they didn't hold that against him. They invited you out for dinner.
Yes.
Tell me how the conversation came up about a new place to live.
We were just talking about moving to Adams County.
Why?
It's just a better situation.
Just a second. Was he required to be in a particular county for his probation?
No.
Now, was he required to live in that county?
No, he's not, unless he puts in a request to move, and that was approved.
Well, is there any reason why you put in a request to move after he was released from prison?
Yes, because they offered to talk to Monica about a house that was coming up for rent in Adams County.
Just a second. Who knew about a house? Did you know about a house that was coming up for rent?
No.
Yeah, I'm not getting a sense of forthcoming answers from you. You have somebody who cleans for you, whose husband has been incarcerated, who hasn't been living in any of your property. Now he's coming out of jail, and I want you to tell me how the discussion of a place to live came up. You're out to dinner.
Yes, we invited him out to dinner. We were excited to meet him. They had mentioned they had put in for a change of probation officers.
So he put in a request for a new probation officer.
Yes.
But for the fact that you told them, they would have no way of knowing that you had to move from one place to another. You had to have told them if you put in a request to move.
We were just looking for a place to live.
You approached them and said, do you have a place for us?
No, I did not say that.
Well, then, how did it come about?
Caption coming up.
There was sort of acrimony at the end of your moving out, but I'm going to take one thing at a time. They say that when you moved out, you took a claw bathtub. Did you take the bathtub? The answer is either yes or no.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Shauna, Monica, Carl, and Renee.
Shauna Hellerman and Monica Tway are accusing their former tenants, Carl and Renee Antonucci, of not paying rent and stealing a tub.
We were friends, and they invited us out to dinner.
Just a
Shauna
sec.
and I were friends.
That's
yes.
it. So
and
this is somebody who's a friend of yours.
And I did not. I cleaned her house very randomly, but I'm with subcontractor. I was not an employee. In fact, I called myself an employee of hers once, and she said, "You're not an employee. You're my friend. You're a subcontractor." So we were at dinner, and we were saying that we were wanting to look for a place to live, and Joel said, "Oh, well, there's a place in Adams County that Monica just bought. I'll talk to her about you guys moving in there." That's how we came to know about that place.
Great.
And we were fine with living in our motorhome, but it would be nice to have more room, so we were excited about that. That's how we found out about it.
You found out about it because you needed a place to live, that you were moving.
We didn't, well...
That's
yeah.
according to your husband.
As a general contractor, trying to find housing, one of my ideas was, well, let's rent a house, let's rent a place. I need space because I have trailers, I have a flatbed, I have a cargo trailer, I have the 2 vehicles and the Harley. I need a garage, I need a shop. I need to, expand. That's the sole reason for finding a different place. And also trying to save money to buy a home and recover and do all these things, build my business, so forth.
Ultimately, you moved out. There was sort of acrimony at the end of your moving out, but I'm going to take one thing at a time. They say that when you moved out, you took a claw bathtub. I know what those are. They're sort of a decorative old piece. I've had them, they sometimes use them now when they renovate houses and put modern stuff around this claw bathtub. Did you take the bathtub? The answer is either yes or no.
Yes.
Yes.
Of course. You say you took it in the answer. Did you have permission to take it?
Yes.
Yes.
Who gave you permission?
Monica.
Monica, did you give them permission to take it?
Absolutely not. I did not give them permission to take it.
So now I want one of you to tell me when the conversation took place, where it took place, and who was present. One of you is going to talk to me.
When we were about to move in and doing the walk through the residence.
No, just not moving out. You were going to move in, and you moved into the residence in February of 2021? What month?
No, we moved in April.
April of 2022. And you moved out when?
August 21st of 2022, of course.
Okay, so what you're saying, Antonucci, is that in April, now you're going to tell me a story, in April you were walking through the premises with the owner.
I was going to do some work on the place too before we moved in, and when we moved in as some of the trade, or I would build them at a discounted rate, and there was supposed to be a fireplace, a wood stove. Well, really the main reason why I moved into this place is because I had a wood stove. The electricity is so hot.
Listen to me.
Going through the house.
I don't care. Bathtub.
Okay.
I don't care about a fireplace. I care about a bathtub.
Okay. Discussion comes out about the bathtub. She says she's not going to plumb it in. She says if you guys want the tub, you can keep it. You can plumb it in if you want, But, I'm not going to plumb it in and deal with it.
Okay, so she said to you she had this bathtub there that she didn't want to plumb in. I assume that means connect.
Correct, because the
Connect to water.
Yeah.
She didn't want to plumb it in. You can either use it if you want to plumb it in or not. That's what she said to you.
No.
Not
No! Only him.
have.
No, I
If you
didn't
want
hear.
the
I
tub.
didn't hear the word have. You want to read back what he said, please?
He says, discussion comes up about the bathtub. She says, I'm not going to plumb this thing in. She says, if you guys want the tub, you can keep it. You can plumb it in if you want. But I'm not going to plumb it in and deal with it.
You want to use it, you can use it.
Keep it. Keep it.
If
have
you
it.
keep it, not keep it and take it away with you, you're moving in to her house. She said, this bathtub isn't connected to water. You can, if you want to, plumb it in, because according to you, she knew that you were in the construction business, and keep it, or not. But I'm not plumbing it in. And you viewed that 4 months later as saying, I can take the bathtub?
Yeah, there was more discussion about
No,
it.
let me hear the more discussion about it.
She didn't want the tub.
Just a second. That's a conclusion in your mind that she didn't want the tub. Based upon what you just said to me, if you're moving into a house, you're moving into a place, that statement that she made could not be construed in my mind as you can keep. It now belongs to you, the bathtub. You can either plumb it in or not. If you want to keep it, plumb it in. If you don't want to keep it, don't plumb it in. Okay, where's the bathtub?
And storage.
They get it back. 5 days.
She said she was going to haul.
5 days.
Thank you, Your Honor.
5. I'll give you an order. Is that all you have to contribute to this case?
Some other witnessing, but that's...
Then, as a witness, you can sit down. You're getting your bathtub back in 5 days.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
Good. Now, let's talk about the next thing, which is damages to the duplex. So they moved in April. They paid rent in April?
Yes, they did.
They pay rent in May?
Yes, they did pay for May.
And June?
No, they have not completed their payment for June.
How much was their rent?
$1,200 a month.
How much did they pay in June?
They still have $80 owing, $30 in rent and a $50 late fee.
Okay, I'm not interested. About July?
Nothing.
Was there any rent in July?
No payments, no.
Did you live in the premises in July?
Yes.
You were evicted on 8/21. Up until the 21st of August, were you living in the premises?
Yes.
Did you pay rent in August?
No.
Okay. Now you want to tell me why you stopped paying rent in July?
Yes, on July 10th, there was a flood in the house.
July 10th, there was a flood in the house. From where?
We believe it was a spigot. No one ever told us
No.
where it came from.
Well, you're living there. They're not living there, right? You're living
Upstairs
there.
or-
Shut up. I'm only going to listen to one person. Not talking over each other. Is that you or your wife?
Me.
Fine. You're living there April, May, June. July, there's a leak. I'm living in a house. I know where the leak came. The leak comes from a refrigerator. It comes from a window. It comes from a ceiling. It comes from a something. Where did the leak come from?
I wasn't home for that. We came home to the flood. I came home to the flood at like 8:40.
Was it coming from the apartment above you?
No, it was
Where
not.
was it coming from?
Caption coming up.
I called Monica and I said, oh my God, there's water everywhere in the house. What's going on? She didn't know what was going on. So we were trying to figure out where to turn the water off at.
I'm still trying to figure out if you lived there in July, why weren't you paying rent?
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Shauna, Monica, Carl, and Renee.
Shauna Hellerman and Monica Tway claim their former tenants, Carl and Renee Antonucci, owe for unpaid rent and a bathtub. Carl and Renee are countersuing for property damage and loss of income.
Okay, was it coming from the apartment above you?
No, it was
Where
not.
was it coming from?
Apparently it was a broken plumbing pipe from the front spigot leaked
Okay,
underneath the
so
house
there-
and
just a
came up
second.
through the subfloor.
So there was a broken internal pipe, as far as you know. Now, your husband's in the construction business, he says. So when the flood happened, did you try to find the source of the flood?
I wasn't home, Your Honor.
Where were you?
I was at work.
Well, eventually, did you come home?
Yeah, I came home that evening real quick.
Well, that evening, did you try to find where the leak came from?
I had to get back to work. She was dealing with the cleanup. The water was turned off. And they were sending a plumber or something.
Okay. So
Monica said she would take care of it, so.
So they turned off the water, which is perfectly reasonable. because the water is coming from an internal pipe that burst, right? And then what happened? I'm still trying to figure out why
They did not turn off the water until after I got home. I walked in. So I called Monica and I said, oh my God, there's water everywhere in the house. What's going on? She didn't know what was going on. So we were trying to figure out where to turn the water off at.
Okay,
So that's when the water
so
got
far,
turned off.
100% understand you. Got it. Came home, you found water, trying to find where it comes from. Finally, turned off the water. I'm still trying to figure out if you lived there in July, why weren't you paying rent?
We were behind on rent because I was working and he was trying to get his job situated down in Boise or wherever he could get contracts with his injuries.
So what you're telling me, that you didn't pay rent in July because you didn't have the money?
No, we did not have the money.
Well, that's what I'm asking you. So other than the fact that you didn't have money, there was no reason why you didn't pay rent.
We were making payments whenever we could.
You paid no payment in July.
For Shauna.
You made
Yes,
no
we did.
payment in July. No, in June you did.
In June we did. In July
June
we
you
did
did not. Listen.
And as long as I was still working for them, that was fine when we were late or making payments to them.
Just a second. You made no payments in July and you made no payments in August. You had made payments in
I wasn't going to
April,
pay for
May,
August
and
when
June.
we had a flood.
I'm just telling you.
Yes.
I'm asking you a question. Is the reason you didn't pay your rent because you didn't have any money?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Then you owe them the rent, $2,400. You lived there. You
Well,
ate the steak.
wait a minute, Your Honor.
I'm not speaking to you. Listen, you're a tag-along on this whole thing. You understand that? I think these people were very nice to you.
I'm not
probably, I probably wouldn't have been as nice.
The house flooded. That's why I couldn't pay the rent.
I have all the
Just a-
pictures
just
right
a second.
It
here.
shut my business down. It shut my business down. That
It
house
ruined
flooded.
his briefcase.
My plans were ruined, my computers. There was 2 inches of water, 1,800 square feet of flood.
Yeah.
Monica says she's going to come over. Don't worry.
Mr. Antonucci, you can't talk over me, sir.
Apologies, but
You can't talk over me. I'm older than you are, and I've lived in many apartments, and believe me, I have been the cause of a flood, and I have been the recipient of floods from people around me. Usually, it's an accident. It usually is not an on purpose. Very few people turn on their bathtub and say, I'm going to let this bathtub overflow into my bottom neighbor's house. It's usually as a result of a broken pipe, which nobody can see, or an air conditioner plugs up and the pan overflows and the, whatever they call it, the little water bug signal doesn't go blank, blank, so you don't even know that it's going off, and there's a flood. That's not somebody's fault. So now you have a flood that is nobody's fault, not yours, because you're the tenants. So clearly it wasn't your fault. Not something that they anticipated, not something that they were derelict in taking care of. So now, what did they do once the initial mess was cleaned up? How did they fix it? Did they fix the pipe?
We don't know. They never told us.
Refuse
I
to
mean,
give
they
any
said that a
information.
plumber came to the house. He left a hole in the ceiling, which I have a picture of.
Just a second. You lived there the whole month of July and into August. Did you have water? Just answer my question. You lived there the whole month of July after this happened and the majority of August. Did it flood again?
No, because
Not a because. It didn't flood again. And what did the plaintiff do to remediate that? Did they put in fans and blowers?
They put in one fan, and then she finally brought 5 more over. So I had 6 fans in an 1,800 square foot house and 1 window that opened. We lived in the basement.
So they put in fans. You said they had put in one, and then they brought
them,
up.
and I plugged them in and brought them and put them on and put them in the bedrooms, in the hallway, in the kitchen, living
Listen,
room.
I have a feeling that you're a victim in more ways than one. That's what you're supposed to do. You living there. They sent them over and you plugged them into the wall. That's what you're telling me?
And there's also a mold problem there.
$2,400. You owe them 2 months' rent and the bathtub. Let's go for next. What damages to the duplex, Ms. Hellerman?
We had some drywall damages, a lot of garbage debris, large dump run.
Yeah, I'm not interested in that. $2,400 and the bathtub. Now I'm going to get to your counterclaim. Money owed for loss of income. Damage to a motorcycle, wrongful eviction. Well, you didn't pay your rent, so the wrongful eviction is out. Defamation. What's the defamation?
So Monica sent me a text when I quit working for her, and it said, thanks for dropping off the keys. I said, you're welcome. She goes, really? Thank you for giving me 1 day notice. No good deed, ... Goes unpunished. And 3 days later, we get an eviction notice on her door.
I want to know what the defamation is. What's the defamation? Nothing. Cross out defamation. Damage to my motorcycle.
Yeah, they laid gravel down in the driveway without notification, and you can't ride a 900-pound Harley through gravel. So his bike went down.
$2,400, judgment for the plaintiff, counterclaims dismissed. We're done here, and she's absolutely right. No good deed goes unpunished.
This court is adjourned.
Shauna.
She definitely got to the bottom of their character.
That house was a death trap.
We received a text with pictures of small puddles throughout the home on a concrete slab.
She didn't want to plumb the tub in. She said we could have it. If we want to use it, we could. If not, she's going to get rid of it. She's going to throw it away, take it to the dump.
I didn't ever tell them they could have the tub. I told them I was not going to install it at that time and that I had already arranged to have the tub removed. I was going to store it.
Judy and Sarah.
You know, I think what bothers me more than anything else about cases like that is that those were two nice people. The plaintiffs were two nice people.
Sure.
And they actually took a chance. They had an employee who was there for a year. Now she's got a husband who's recently released from whatever kind of prison he was in, but they welcomed him, they took him to dinner, they needed a new place to live, and then they leave the place a mess. They give them no notice. They just drop the keys and we're leaving and don't pay rent for 2 months. And took property that he knew was valuable because they moved back to their motorhome, so they didn't need a clawed bathtub, which are expensive.
But they pay for that storage.
But they pay for the storage in order to keep it. So the plaintiff was right. No good deed goes unpunished.
True.
Too bad.
Title, Judy Justice.
Want justice? Go to judyjustice.tv.
He'd gotten a restraining order against me.
Against you.
I sent him a letter saying that I wanted payment.
This letter threatens to go to his boss to get him fired. That's what that says. That's what you were threatening.
This is Judy Justice. Are suing their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, for unpaid loans.
Court come to order. All rise.
Judge Judy.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches.
Hello, Judge. Case 2082, Smoody versus McDonald.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, the defendant used to be married to your daughter.
Yes, Your Honor.
And according to what I've read, they were married for about 5 years.
Yes.
The thrust of your claim is that he owes for a couple of things, for rent and the balance of a truck. That's your lawsuit against him. I'd like to know, do you know the date of their marriage?
3/16/2011.
And your ex-wife's first name?
Jacqueline.
And when did you and your former wife separate?
In 2020.
And you had 2 children. How old are they now?
They are 5 and 8.
And who has custody of the children?
Dalton has physical, and they have joint custody.
Just a second. So he has custody of the 2 younger children?
Yes.
That's a yes. How long have you had custody of the 2 children?
Since July of last year.
At some point during the marriage, there was a truck purchased.
Yes.
Who purchased the truck?
Dalton purchased the truck. I co-signed for it.
And when was it purchased? Month and year?
June of 2017.
Was that the only car
Yes.
that they had?
Yes.
So that was a family car.
Yes.
And in 2017, was your daughter working?
Yes.
So both parents worked. And both parents, I assume, pooled their money and I assume made car payments.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Is that correct? Both. And then they separated in 2020, and at that time, the children came to live with you.
Correct.
And you took the truck
Yes.
by agreement with your now ex-wife.
Yes.
In 2020, who made the car payments?
My husband did.
Is that correct?
Yes. I made all of the car payments on that vehicle. All of them, from the time it was purchased until we paid it off.
Okay, so what you're telling me is from 2017, you made all the car payments.
That's correct.
Did your daughter and son-in-law make any of those payments?
Not directly, but they paid toward the balance of the money that they were.
You paid for the truck
That's correct.
since 2017, since they
correct.
were married,
Yes.
with no reimbursement.
I took payments out of my daughter's check.
Just be very, very careful with me, sir.
Yeah.
I want you to be very careful with me. I read that, what we call in Yiddish, babamaisis in here, that you took money out of your daughter's check. Babamaisis, it means grandma's tale. It means it's not true. It means it doesn't sound right to me. I read it in here. Don't try to repeat it here because that won't be good for you. Okay, I'm going to believe you if you show me copies of her checks that you made to her with withdrawals from money she owed you. That's all I want to see. Do you have that?
I do not.
Not, of course not. Now, he has the truck, and this was clearly either a gift or a marital debt. Either one of those two things. It's either a gift or a marital debt. It was a family car that was used by your daughter, her husband, the grandchildren, with, according to you, no reimbursement, according to you, except this ridiculous reimbursement from your daughter's check, which I don't believe, so I'm not even going into it, with no reimbursement 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. And when your daughter and the defendant separated in 2020, according to him and according to you, he took the truck and the children. And that was with her consent or not?
Yes, it was.
With her consent. Is that so far right? That's what you're telling me.
It's accurate.
Right. Did you intervene in the divorce proceeding and say that there is money owed, marital debt owed, and part of the marital debt is this loan on the truck?
No.
No. The answer is no, you did not. It would also be fair to say that you don't know how much, according to you, she paid for the truck.
I do, Your Honor. I have that ledger that I have. I would go to her each week and say, Jacqueline, how much can I take toward the loan? And that's how much I would take off each week.
All you have to do, sir, is show me. Otherwise, this is a whole bunch of nonsense.
Yeah.
It's a marital debt. You did not intervene in the divorce proceedings and say, listen, this is a debt that's still outstanding, whatever it is, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. You didn't do that. Now, the only thing that you can say to me with regard to this truck business is if you had, had an agreement with the defendant in 2017 to pay the truck. And be very careful, because what you've told me is he didn't make any payments to you from 2017 ever.
He made some payments.
Just a second. Interesting. Show me where he made payments. Did you give him a receipt for payments?
No, this is a small town, and
It's not a small town, it's a family, sir. It's not a small...
I do have the ledger.
I'm not interested in the ledger you created. It's self-serving and therefore inadmissible and created for the purpose solely of this litigation and not created at the same time that the event took place. I might even cut you a little slack if you had a ledger, a book with entries in it at different times from 2017 in different ink, with a day, how much was paid back on the loan. I guarantee you do not have that. You have a very nice piece of white paper that you created for me. Is that correct? That is correct.
That is accurate.
Okay, so I'm not interested in your ledger. That's not a ledger. That's a document prepared for the purposes of litigation. So I want you to tell me what conversation you had and when with Mr. McDonald about paying for the truck.
Caption, coming up.
They bought this boat from you.
Accurate.
And how much did you sell it to them for?
$2,500.
Did they pay you for it?
No, part of that was put on the ledger, and part of it was cash.
You know I'm not buying your whole story.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Herman, Tina, and Dalton.
Herman and Tina Smoody claim their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, owes for unpaid loans.
Now, I want you to tell me what conversation you had and when with Mr. McDonald about paying for the truck.
That was from the very beginning, because I was paying all their bills.
Just a sec. I don't care whether you were paying their bills. I understand you were paying all their bills because they came to live with you for a brief period of time because they were evicted for whatever reason, and that was sometime in 2016. Okay. So I understand that you were paying their bills. Well, sometimes that's what parents do. They pay their bills.
We were paying their bills because they had no checking account.
That doesn't matter to me. I want to know your conversations with, where did it take place? Because you're not suing your daughter, you're suing him.
The conversation was when we rented the farm for them, which I know is not with the truck, but the landlord would not let them rent from them because they had terrible credit.
We'll get to the rent later. Stick with the truck. Don't talk to him when I'm asking him questions.
Well, the truck was the same thing. We put that on the ledger then, or on the running total, and they agreed. They both agreed that they were going to pay us off.
Okay.
He came over on Labor Day weekend, and I showed him the ledger, which he saw all the time.
No. Don't tell me what he saw. Don't tell me what he saw. If what you're saying is you showed him the ledger when he came over with the boys,
yes,
and he was going back to Minnesota,
right,
and he brought the boys to see you to say goodbye?
Correct.
Okay, so far, it's very nice. You have a reasonable relationship with him, and certainly your daughter was clearly overwhelmed because courts do not usually split up children, so they must have felt that the children's best interest would be served if they remained with their father. Clearly what happened, the father came over to you to let you say goodbye to the children, and when he came over to let you say goodbye to the children, let me understand what you're saying to me. What you said to him was, not thank you for taking over this responsibility. Your daughter had more children than she could take care of, physically or financially, right? Clearly.
Yes.
Clearly. So what you want me to believe that two nice people who took in their daughter with her two kids and a husband and bought a truck and made arrangements for them to have someplace to live, that these two nice people, when he came over, because your daughter couldn't take care of her children, and he brought them to say goodbye, you said, it's very nice. I want you to take a look at this ledger and see how much money you owe me. That's what you're asking me to believe, right? I'm going to let you live with that fantasy that I believe that.
And so I did give him the balance of what he owed me on the rent.
No.
And on the truck.
Nice.
And he looked me in the eye, he shook my hand and said, Jerry, I promise I'm not going to screw you on this. I'm going to make those payments.
Make payments for what?
On the rent and on the truck.
Okay. Did you have that conversation with him?
No, I did not, Your Honor. The conversation was when I came up there the last time, Jerry was trying to sell his fishing boat, so I posted it on Facebook, and I sold it for him.
In what month and year?
That would have been September of 2020. After selling the boat, he gave me $1,200 for helping him.
How much did he sell the boat for?
It was $4,700.
So that was after you'd already moved?
Correct.
With the children?
Yep.
Okay. He helped you sell the boat for $4,700? Just answer my question.
No.
Did you give him $1,200?
No. He bought that boat from me a year prior to that. He had it.
So they bought this boat from you?
Accurate.
When?
That would have been in the spring of 2019.
And how much did you sell it to them for?
$2,500.
Did they pay you for it?
No, part of that was put on the ledger, and part of it was cash.
You know, I'm not buying your whole story. I'm not buying your whole story because what
Your Honor, I'm telling you the honest-to-God truth.
No, I don't think so. I don't think that I would have sold people who had no credit, who couldn't buy themselves a truck, so you had to co-sign for the only means of transportation that they had, who couldn't pay for their rent, who couldn't pay their bills because of their bad credit. I don't believe this whole scenario about selling them a leisure boat for $2,500. Is mind-boggling that you would think that an intelligent person like me would accept that. Okay, forget the truck. You have the truck now.
Yes.
Okay. You haven't finished your story with me, so you sold the boat, and he gave you $1,200.
Correct. I gave him the $1,200 back, which made us even on the truck payments, and he gave me the title. Tina signed it, and then I brought it back to Minnesota and put it in my name.
Okay. Who signed it?
Tina signed it.
My name was on it as well.
Your name?
Yes.
As joint owners with him?
Yep.
Co-signer.
Oh, interesting. In what month did Mrs. Smoody?
Yes.
Sign over the car to you?
The same day that I gave Jerry the $1,200, that would have been in September.
Now, do you remember the $1,200?
No, it was $1,000 that he paid toward the loan when I sold the boat for him. Okay. And it was his boat that I sold for him.
Okay. You did not create this as a marital debt. It absolutely was a marital debt. So I'm dismissing that portion of your claim that deals with the truck. Now, let's deal with the rent. The rent that you're talking about was rent in what property?
The farmhouse that they rented.
From when to when?
2016, November 2020.
And over the years that they lived there as a couple.
Yes.
The rent was paid to a landlord.
Correct.
By you.
Yes.
Is that right?
Correct.
And they, your daughter and her husband, would give you cash, checks, or whatever to cover the rent.
Yep.
Yes.
And how much did they give you to cover the rent?
When we started out, rent was $800, and Later on, he raised it to $900. We never made it a set amount each week. They gave us what they could. And we've done this before in the past, and they've always paid us back.
Well, then you should have sued them and listed all of this as a marital debt in the process of their divorce. So it could all have been...
We're handling Jacqueline in another way.
You what?
We're handling Jacqueline alone.
I don't understand what that means.
Well, you're saying it was marital.
Just a second. Does that mean that you've already served your daughter with a summons?
Not yet, no.
Of course not. Of course not. And you did know when they were divorcing. Yeah. You did know when they were divorcing. I'm not buying anything of this lawsuit, most of which, at least the rent part, is totally stale. I'm just curious, Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, somebody wants to answer this question for me. Mr. McDonald has custody of your two young grandsons, who I assume that you were close to because they lived with you in your house. And you seem like...
live with us. The two boys came back to live with us.
From when to when?
December of 2021 until July of 2022. 6 months we had them.
Just a second, 2022. Was there a court proceeding?
No.
But then in July, they went back with their father.
That's accurate.
And they've been with their father since?
Yes.
Okay, so the boys lived with you for 6, 7 months.
Right.
Was that an acrimonious transfer?
Caption coming up.
That's what you meant when you said, any employer that has gone through all that paperwork and red tape, as I have, will do anything to avoid it. The anything is firing the employee.
A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Herman, Tina, and Dalton.
Herman and Tina Smoody are accusing their former son-in-law, Dalton McDonald, of refusing to pay back loans.
Was that an acrimonious transfer, or was it something that you both...
What happened there was he called my husband to see if
No, don't tell me what he said to your husband.
Okay,
I will tell you then. He called me in December and asked me if I would please take the two boys. I told him, I will take them, Dalton, if you start making regular payments.
Oh, well, we're out of the money business now, sir. What you're saying is from 2017, when the children were in his custody, your daughter may have been there, but they were in joint custody, and then he maintained custody of the children, and during the time he maintained custody of the children, there was no question whatsoever that he was not paying you back money. He did not make any payments to you. Occasional here and there, we don't keep records. All of a sudden, now you have the boys with you. And then in July, he comes back and he takes the boys back. All I asked you was whether that was an acrimonious, which is an unpleasant, or a harmonious transfer of the children. Mr. Smoody was in July.
In July, it was acrimonious because at that point, he'd gotten a restraining order against me.
Against you?
Against me while we had the children. Because I sent him a letter saying that I wanted payment, and he went and got a restraining order against me because they took that as a threat.
I'd like to see the letter, please, Kevin.
Herman hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
And this is what needs to happen moving forward.
That's correct.
You need to mail me $200 on the 1st of every month and $200 on the 15th, starting March 1st, 2022. If I do not get these payments on time, the following will happen, which is, you could say, I'm going to sue you, right? I'm going to sue you, but that's not what you say. You say, I will go to your boss and talk to them about garnishing your wages. Any employer that has gone through all the paperwork and red tape as I have will do anything to avoid it. So that's a threat. What you're saying is, I'm going to call your boss and tell him that I'm going to sue you, and then your boss is going to have to go through all the red tape of what it means to have a garnish on your salary. You have to go through accounting, and they have to deduct it. And no boss wants to do that, which is in effect say, so either you pay me or your boss is going to fire you. That's what you meant when you said, any employer that has gone through all that paperwork and red tape, as I have, will do anything to avoid it. The anything is firing the employee. The only thing that...
You can legally fire somebody.
Just a second. Whether you can legally fire them or not, that's what you were threatening. That's what that said. So we got an order of protection against you.
Correct.
And?
Then I didn't fight it because I didn't anticipate having any conversations or contact with him.
When you wrote this letter,
Yes.
you had the boys.
Yes.
Right. Not before.
No.
Not before. And he had had the boys for some time alone.
3 months.
He had had the boys for some time alone. Okay. Let's go back to my original question, which was, when the boys went back to their father, was it acrimonious or harmonious?
It was not good.
Well, so tell me your version of what happened.
The reason it was acrimonious is because he knew very well that once we got him, we put him on a strict schedule. 8 o'clock, brush your teeth, 8:15 pajamas, 8:30 bed.
Where was your daughter living at this time?
With us.
Yeah, just to say, if you're going to interrupt him because you want to get it out,
I'm sorry.
That's not going to be good for you.
She had a room at our house.
Just a second. So your daughter was living with you. So what you're telling me was your daughter was in the wind someplace.
Accurate.
Okay. You know, you had her for a long time. He only had her for 5 years. And I can understand the sadness if your daughter is in the wind and not being responsible, sir. But that doesn't mean he has to shoulder all the burden. Right now, he's shouldering all the burden of supporting the 2 children, which I assume you're doing. They're living with you. And so are you working?
Yes, I am.
And he's working. Your daughter is not.
She's working 2 jobs.
She always has.
If she's working 2 jobs, why was she in a room?
She wasn't renting. She was living there free.
Okay. So now let's get back to this acrimonious transfer by the children back in July.
Dalton called me, or called the kids.
Okay, so he called the children.
After bedtime.
Okay.
Called my wife's phone 4 times. Ring, 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 ring. And she wouldn't answer because kids were in bed. And then he called my phone twice. The second time, I have an old flip phone. I flipped it, walked in, because now I hear the boys are awake. I let them talk to the boys. And then I took the phone back and I said some naughty things to him and hung it up.
What did you say naughty things to him for?
Because I was very angry at him. Can I use some swear words that I used when I told him?
No, I assume you used some terrible words.
Yeah,
but
I just told him, don't call me anymore.
Is there any reason that you discussed with your wife why she didn't answer the phone?
Because the boys were already in bed. He had done that before.
You already told me that you heard the boys, so you took the phone into his room.
After the phone calls, they woke up.
Is what you're telling me that the first time that he tried to talk to the boys, that you or your wife didn't answer the phone?
I think it probably happened once or twice prior, and then we told him, don't do it anymore.
Okay, fine.
And this time we were fed up.
Fine. So that's when he said, I'm coming to take the boys.
No. No.
Well, when did he say he was coming to take the boys?
Not until July. Jacqueline told us that Dalton was going to be taking the kids once they got out of school.
Okay, I'm going to take the pain out of this case, and I'm going to do it relatively quickly. I think, Mr. and Mrs. Smoody, that this lawsuit was very ill-advised. The defendant doesn't owe you any money. He doesn't owe you any money because if there was money owed, it was a marital debt, and it should have been taken up at the time of the divorce, listed as a marital debt, and then it could have been fixed by the judge who approved the divorce how much and by whom is owed money. You chose not to do that. It was only after a very acrimonious set of circumstances, roughly 5.5 years later, after this truck was purchased, that you chose to exercise any prerogatives with regard to a debt, except this letter, which threatens to go to his boss to get him fired if you don't stop making payments, and that was only after the 2 children came to live with you and were sort of overwhelmed. You have to understand, Mr. McDonald, who I think probably is trying, he's got the 2 boys. It got very complicated, but it's not a lawsuit, and I would make nice with him. He's got 2 children that you probably want to have some connection with, and this lawsuit certainly doesn't help that. Well, anyway, for all the reasons that I've stated, your lawsuit's dismissed. We're finished. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Herman.
He owes us that money. He admitted he owed us the money.
I think the judge was absolutely correct.
He promised he was going to pay us the money back.
I don't owe Jerry any money.
Kids are irresponsible, have no sense of honor, duty, respect, responsibility, nothing.
It really should be a family thing, and maybe one day it can go back to it.
This was a great case that explains why a lot of cases in civil court have a statute of limitations before you can bring a certain kind of case, because here it was hard for us to understand why they would not have requested that money back earlier. So when you ask for it now, years down the line where so much has happened, court's not so likely to feed into that because you don't know what the real motivation is behind it.
I agree. I think it's really foolish of them, especially since their ex-son-in-law has total custody of these two little boys, for them not to maintain reasonable relationship with him.
It was a good showing, though, that if you do give money to your daughter, son, and their significant other, and they do get divorced, you should follow that divorce proceeding. So if you do have a claim,
legitimate debt,
or claim, then
List it.
that's the place where you should bring it.
Absolutely.
Title: Judy Justice.
Are you having a family dispute? Go to judyjustice.tv.
Did you claim that your daughter was being physically abused by her father? That's either a yes or a no.
To a point.
I really don't understand two people who hate each other more than they love their child. Period.
This is Judy Justice. Curtis Brown and Heather Palin are suing Heather's ex-husband, Scott Manis, for impound fees, harassment, and defamation.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Kevin approaches the bench.
Case 2142, Brown, Palin versus Mannings.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Miss Palin, this is your former husband.
That is correct, Your Honor.
How long were you married?
18 years.
And this is your daughter.
Correct.
Is this your only child?
With Mr. Manis, it is.
Yes.
Yes.
You have other children?
One other, yes.
How old?
32.
When did you and Mr. Manis separate?
I moved out of the family home in March of 2018.
And this is your boyfriend?
Correct.
I'm going to, in broad strokes, at least try to reconcile both the complaint and the answer in this case. I assume there was a time when your daughter, whose first name is? Trisha was living with you after the separation.
We had a mutual divorce decree of 50-50.
And was that honored?
Until September 4th of 2020, Mr. Manis had brought Trisha back to my home. And while we were out of the home, he had her pack her belongings.
No, okay. Let's stop there. Trisha, how old are you?
I'm 19, Your Honor.
Right subsequent to the separation and the divorce, until September of 2020, you shared custody.
Correct.
Yes, ma'am.
And then Trisha decided she would prefer to live with her father.
Correct.
For whatever reason. I don't have to go into it, because this doesn't really have to do with who she chose to live with or where she was living. It has to do with a car. Okay. So while she was living with Mr. Manis purchased a car.
Yes, ma'am.
For her use.
Correct.
In what month did you purchase a car for her use? Month and year?
Oh boy, I believe that was probably February of 2019, I believe. 18 or 19.
Well, let's figure it out.
It was about 6 months prior to the case with her. So September 4th, we had the car. It would have been probably June or July of the same year.
So you bought her a car a couple of months before she decided to come and live with you?
Correct.
Okay, I got it.
She had just obtained her driver's license.
That's okay. I'm just trying to get a timetable. Right before she decided to come to live with you and not have 50-50 custody anymore, you purchased a car for her.
Correct.
And she drove that car in June or July, August?
Correct.
At your house?
At both houses.
She was allowed to go to take the car
ma'am.
to their house?
Correct.
When she saw her mother?
Yes.
And then bring it back?
Correct.
There was a time when you took the car away from her. When was that?
Probably mid-August.
Mid-August of 2020?
Correct. Well, the threat was to take the car away because her grades were slipping. I didn't actually take the car away.
When did you take it away?
I actually never did take it away. Her mother and her mother's boyfriend decided to purchase her another car to eliminate my threat of taking away the car.
Well, I don't know if that's because, but they decided to
Correct.
purchase another car. And what did you do with the car that you had gotten for your daughter?
I sold that.
When did you sell it?
Probably a month or so after she got the other car.
And the threat was made to your daughter because you were concerned about how she was doing in school or how she was doing socially. What were the reasons?
Well, her grades were slipping. Okay. So I wanted her to concentrate more on her grades rather than...
Grades were slipping?
Correct, at school.
Did she give you any reason for that?
She was under a lot of pressure with the divorce.
So you purchased a car, Mr. Brown and Ms. Palin, with the understanding, according to your complaint, that the car would remain in your name there would be payments made on the car, and once the car was paid, it would transfer to Tricia. Well, one thing led to another. Things sort of went south. And according to what I've read in these papers, you got sort of annoyed. And the car that you had purchased was in the physical custody of Tricia, who was living with her father. And Mr. Manis caused the car to be towed and impounded, which caused you substantial expense to get the car out of impound. And he did that maliciously.
Correct.
And you want him to pay those expenses because you did, in fact, get the car out of impound, subsequently sold it. How much were the impound fees?
$1,565.22, Your Honor.
Okay. And Mr. Manis, in defense of that, acknowledges that he towed the car, your car. He towed the car, which was at your house?
Your Honor, I had
Where was the car?
the car at the time was at my house.
That's what I'm asking you. The car was at your house. You had it towed to impound. And you had it towed on what date, sir?
The car was impounded on September 4th.
Of what year?
2020, I believe.
And your defense for doing that?
Your Honor, he
Just a
requested.
second. Your defense for doing that is that you were merely following Mr. Brown's instructions.
And the police officers.
You were following Mr. Brown's instructions.
Correct.
Unless you have a police officer here.
I have several police reports, Your Honor.
About what?
This isn't just about the car. There's several years of harassment.
No, I'm dealing with the car.
I understand.
Right now, I'm dealing with the car.
So I have the several officers that came instructed us to get the car removed from the property.
Well, that may be, sir. You can have the car removed from the property and ask the police to have it deposited in front of their house.
I understand.
Yeah, you chose not to do that.
May I show you his request to have the car towed? He offered a reward for the car to be towed.
Just a second. I want you to tell me where I'm wrong so far.
Scott grins and shakes his head. Caption coming up.
See, what we can all do to make her as unhappy as possible. So I really don't understand two people who probably, in their own way, love their child, but hate each other more than they love their child, which to me is absolutely bizarre.
Scott shakes his head. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Curtis, Heather, and Scott.
Curtis Brown and Heather Palin claim Heather's ex-husband, Scott Manis, owes for impound fees. Scott is countersuing Heather for filing a false CPS report.
Okay. You had the car towed to an impound. You did not call him or your ex-wife the day that you had the car towed to impound. It was some period of time later, if the fees for impound were $1,500. Your excuse for that is you were merely following his request. His request. That's what you wrote in your answer. Is that wrong?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, so now we know that you didn't notify them when you had the car towed.
Your Honor.
Because you could have had the car towed to the local police precinct and called them and said, come pick up the car. It can't be in front of my house anymore.
Your Honor,
He was actually at my house that night.
Just a second. I didn't ask you anything. Sorry. Go ahead.
The police, when they came to our house, the car was present. They acknowledged the presence of the car.
You can't tell me what the police did, sir.
I have the reports, Your Honor.
I'd like to see, I will see the report. What I'm asking you is, there are two things. If you wanted the car out of your custody and you wanted to quietly and stop the friction, send it back to the people who purchased it, you could have done that. You chose not to do that.
Your Honor, the reason I chose not to do that is because of I have several false allegations from CPS, the police. I did not choose to have any contact
You
with
don't
them
have to have any contact with them, sir.
in order to.
You don't have to have any contact with them. Just like you paid a tow truck company to take the car to impound, you pay the tow truck company, you live in a private house or an apartment.
Private house.
You have the tow truck company drop the car off in front of their house. Now, after you had the car towed to an impound company, did you contact them in any way?
No, I didn't.
No.
I was instructed.
Did you
not
ask
to
the
by
police to contact them and tell them?
The police knew, yes.
I didn't ask you what the police knew. You can't tell me what the police knew. So you had the car towed on September the 4th. And when were you notified the car was in impound?
I received certified letter on September 26th, which was a Friday. It said to contact him Monday through Friday between 8 and 4.
Just a second, you received that on September 26th.
Yes.
Is that the first notice that you had that the car was impounded?
Correct.
Yeah, that's the
Okay, so now the onus is upon you, Mr. Manis. I want you to prove your defense to me, and your defense was you were following Mr. Brown's instructions.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, that's all I want to see.
Here you go, Your Honor.
Scott hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
So this says $100 reward to anyone that impounds my car. Call a tow truck and tell them to contact me.
Yes, Your
You
Honor.
know this number.
Yes.
Yes. Well, did you do that?
The tow company sent them a letter on 9/10 of 2020, and I have the proof of that also, Your Honor.
Yeah, I would like to see what you're looking at. That's not on September 4th.
No.
That's not on September 4th.
9/10, they sent that out,
Okay.
the notice.
Let's see.
Judy reviews another document.
Well, this says that attempts were made on 9/21, 9/26, and 10/5. That's what it looks like, attempts made.
That's when they had attempted to deliver, but they did not pick it up.
So they had no notice.
They had notice.
No,
did
they
not
had
pick
no
up on
notice.
They
They
didn't pick
had
it up.
no notice.
If they would have gone to their post office box, they would have had notice.
If I had taller parents, I would have been 5'7".
Heather grins.
They had no notice. Okay, $1,565. That's what you owe them. It was a malicious act.
Your Honor, this isn't just about the car.
This
There's-
is
there are
all.
horrendous
Listen to me.
False
This is
allegations
all
through
this-
CPS. If you would please.
Let me. You have a counterclaim.
Yes, ma'am.
And your counterclaim I'm going to hear. Right now, you owe Mr. Brown $1,565 because what you did was malicious. And I don't understand something. You have one child together. I assume that you don't want to make her miserable. That when she was born, you said, oh, let's see what we can do over her lifetime to make her as unhappy as possible. Let's see what we can all do to make her as unhappy as possible. So I really don't understand two people who probably, in their own way, love their child, but hate each other more than they love their child, which to me is absolutely bizarre. So right now, because you did a malicious thing by having their car towed and not giving them a heads up that you had the car towed to a place that was going to cost them money, you owe them $1,565. Now I'm going to hear your claim that they made false charges to CPS about you.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, can I say something?
About what?
The car.
Before you say anything, did I say anything that was inaccurate? Did your father have the car towed? The answer is he's acknowledged that. He had the car towed and put it in a place where neither your mother or her boyfriend knew where it was, resulting in their having to pay fines to get the car out. Is there anything that I said was wrong?
That is partially incorrect because I had contacted my mother in the time and asked either.
Okay, that's that I'll hear. You contacted your mother.
I did contact my mother previously, not only on normal messages, but also on messenger messages, including how I wanted either the title or my money back and that they could have the car before that. Once the Facebook post was...
All I want you to show me is that you notified either your mother or Mr. Brown that the car was impounded when you notified them.
She also did ask my best friend where it was.
All I want, that's all I want. Don't tell me what you said to your best friend who's not here. All I want to do is see where you notified your mother that the car was impounded.
So there is this one about money in my account, which was about the car.
I don't want to see anything about the car. I only want to see where you notified your mother or Mr. Brown that the car was impounded.
Okay. I don't have the text about that, but I did notify her that it was impounded.
Well, I don't know that, and it seems to me you weren't talking to your mother on a regular basis because there was a lot of acrimony. If you have it, you have it. If you don't have it, you don't have it. So, Tricia, you could sit down.
Tricia sits. Caption coming up.
I'm telling you that it is inappropriate, the act of sharing a bed with a teenage female child as a father would give me cause to pause.
Scott shakes his head. A courthouse. The Judy Justice logo appears. In the courtroom, Curtis, Heather, and Scott.
Defendant Scott Manis has accused his ex-wife, Heather Palin, of filing a false report with Child Protective Services.
Now, it was a malicious act to have the car impounded. There's no question in my mind that if they knew it was impounded, they would have gotten it out before. $1,565. Now, you want to show me what information you have with regard to filing a false CPS report?
Correct. I have the CPS reports and the police investigators report.
Okay, may I see it, please?
Scott hands a document to Kevin, who brings it to Judy. She reviews it.
This report, it was in September of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
It's been several years of these reports and
Just
disgusting allegations.
So you filed or you made allegations to Child Protective Services?
CPS actually contacted me, Your Honor, regarding several calls that they had received for the welfare of my daughter, Trisha.
In what year?
I was contacted, I believe it was 2019, and again in 2020.
They contacted you?
Correct.
For what?
To do an interview because of a claim that was made regarding Trisha's safety.
That were made by an anonymous source?
I don't know who made them, Your Honor. In Minnesota, you can't make multiple reports by one person. I cannot call day after day to make reports.
I'm just asking you, did you at some point claim that you had reason to believe that your daughter was being in some way physically abused by her father? That's either a yes or a no.
Yes, to a point.
Yeah, okay. And part of that involved a sexual abuse.
That one was not claimed by me. I did state to CPS that he does have her sleep in his bed with him.
Well, I have to tell you something.
Which is a little weird.
I have to tell you something. That doesn't seem a little weird. It seems a lot weird that your daughter acknowledged, sir.
Your Honor?
Your daughter. What I'm telling you is, it is inappropriate for a man to sleep in the same bed as his 15-year-old daughter.
Your Honor,
that's
we went
my
to a
view.
concert.
And if that's true, there may be a reasonable explanation for it. She said she was scared, whatever, but when interviewed, that's what it says in here. But I'm telling you, as a mother and a grandmother, in my view, and I'm not a professional psychiatrist or psychologist, but it is inappropriate for a teenager to sleep in the same bed with her father. Period.
Scott shakes his head.
Maybe some countries it's appropriate, but
Your Honor, we went to a concert.
What?
And shared a hotel room at a
No, that's not what your daughter said. No. That's not what your daughter said, sir.
May I finish?
Yes.
When she was going through all the stuff with the divorce and everything, she came into my room. I was asleep. She laid next to me. I'm asleep.
Listen to me. I'm not suggesting
Your Honor,
that
there's
anything
nothing
inappropriate. Sir,
absolutely right.
understand this. I'm not suggesting that any inappropriate actions happen between you and your daughter. I'm telling you that it is inappropriate, the act of sharing a bed with a teenage female child as a father would give me cause to pause. I would say, you know what? That's not a good idea. It's especially, sweetheart, it's especially not a good idea when parents seem to be feuding. It's grist for the mill. You may want to go and, if she's scared, say, sweetheart, I'll go and sit in a chair in your room.
Many times.
In your room.
Many
times. But please, this is inappropriate. Do you understand? It's inappropriate.
Did you read the detective's statements in there?
No, I'm not interested in the detective statements.
Obviously.
If what your daughter says is true as a result of the investigation, then there was reason for somebody to suggest to CPS to do an investigation. So listen, bottom line, I can't tell the two of you to stop feuding. I can't. You either hate each other more than you love your daughter. That's the answer. And this court can't fix that. All I can do is fix $1,565, which is what you owe them for impound fees. This case is over. Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
Outside the courtroom, Scott, then Heather.
I think the judge is wrong.
I am thankful for the judge.
She didn't read all the evidence. Multiple pages weren't read.
He's very good at manipulating others
And multiple accusations.
and being the person that, oh, pity me, feel sorry for me.
False allegations to the CPS.
My ex-husband decided that he would show me.
No, he's trying to get my daughter her money back or the title to her car.
He actually had the car as of August 24th. Then he brought her to the house and moved her out on September 4th. And that's when it just started going downhill.
She has a lot of hatred.
I believe he's very angry that I divorced him.
That she falls off a bridge.
And he lost the control over me that he had while we were married.
Judy and Sarah.
You know, Sarah, I've been doing these family cases for probably 40 plus years. And it always makes me sad that the mother, the father, even the new boyfriend, there is a window in life when you feel relatively healthy, nothing hurts you, you don't have a bad back, you don't have to worry about indigestion, you can walk around without a walker, you look pretty reasonable, and that you will take years away from that good time to create negativity around not only yourself, but the people that you love.
I think that's great advice.
I always said to people, both men and women, that, you know, it's one journey. You can take that journey and put as much positive energy into it.
Yeah, I just felt bad for the daughter. I mean, I know she's grown now, 19, but still 19, it still hurts your feelings to hear and see that your parents hate each other more than they care and love about you.
Well, maybe that statement
will make a difference. You never
will
know.
make a difference, because I'm sure it's not true.
Yeah.
I have a feeling.
But when it's said to you in a court in front of your child, hopefully they take some action on it then.
Well, hopefully they'll say, boing, you know. I mean, she has a new boyfriend, and he's got his daughter who's living with him. They should be happy.
Yeah.
And they're divorced.
Close the book and move on.
Close the book.
Yeah.
Her mother and her boyfriend should get a puppy together. Well, they should
Not until they
got married. Not until they. But do something. This is a grown young woman.
Have a healthy
Should
adult relationship with your adult
grown
child.
Right. Not over a car. But you know, teenagers do crazy things for a car. I think that some teenagers would live with Satan if they bought him a car.
Title: